What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the weekly show where I go over every comic book that's coming out on Wednesday a few days in advance, so that way you know what's coming out and whether it's something you want to talk to your comic book shop about. So make sure to subscribe to get these every Monday. To start off with, let's talk about The Fix number 10, which is written by Nick Spencer with art by Steve Lieber, and this is overall a pretty cool independent book. It's a little bit on the edgy side. It's dealing with some corrupt cops and, a dog. It's a really fun kind of raucous adventure through a really weird take on modern society, and it's something that I really enjoy. It's the first issue that's been out in a while since Spencer was writing Secret Empire, so it's definitely something to check out since it's been on hiatus. Next, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to All New Guardians of the Galaxy number 11, which is coming out, and the reason that this is a little bit more important is because it was just recently featured. Small parts of it were really recently featured in Marvel Legacy number 1, specifically the hunt for the Infinity Stones that Gamora is on. So that makes it a little bit more important book in the ongoing Marvel Legacy. After that, we're going to talk about Astonishing XMen number 4, which sees Charles Xavier's, well, at least Charles Xavier's consciousness, I guess, fighting against the Shadow King inside, this really odd ethereal plane. And it's been kind of surprising. Charles Soule's been doing a really good job with this book, and just look at the cover with Mystique on it. It looks like a really fun ride. It's a really cool kind of take on things, and it's something that I don't really recommend a lot of X-Men books based on how Marvel's been treating them, but this one, it's kind of got my attention. Another book that always has had my attention is Deathstroke, and Deathstroke number 24 is continuing the Defiance arc, which sees him forming his own superhero team, but not necessarily for the benefit of mankind. You see him handing out invoices left and right. Overall, Deathstroke has been one of the best books out of DC Rebirth. I really appreciate what Christopher Priest is doing, and it's definitely a book that I'd have to recommend people picking up. Another book I'm personally thinking about picking up is Venom number 155, which sees a change in creative teams slightly. We still have the same writer, but we do get Mark Bagley drawing the new versions of Venom, and with the kind of prominence that's coming around thanks to Venomverse as well as the new Venom Inc. crossover, I'm really excited to see what this new Lethal Protector version of Venom has to offer. Basically, Marvel did backflips to try to get Eddie Brock back into the symbiote, so I really want to see them develop that character and come up with something that's pretty special, and Mark Bagley goes a long way to doing that, at least artistically. Then there's Green Arrow number 32. So this is another Dark Knight's Metal tie-in, and this is where we reach the final circle of hell, aka Gotham at this point in time, as it's been kind of malleably shifted, and cosmically corrupted by the Batman Who Laughs. So they're reaching the final circle, they're going up against the final confrontation. So do we see a confrontation with the Batman Who Laughs or whoever's at the end of this story? So I'm really interested to see how this tie-in really happens. I was not necessarily super stoked on them. They're fun, but they're not necessarily necessary. So that's continued to be the theme. I really appreciated the last Suicide Squad tie-in, just because the art was fantastic, and the storyline kind of picked everything up, so it made me feel like it was a little bit more fun, a little bit more integral into the actual plot of DC's Dark Knight's Metal, but I wonder if Green Arrow is going to continue that trend. I'm getting it regardless, but it's something that you guys might be able to pass over if you're not super interested in just getting the tie-ins, or if you're not super interested in getting things more than the core book. Another kind of event book that you might not necessarily be interested in is Venomverse number 5. Overall, I found it pretty entertaining in terms of a popcorn kind of movie thing. It's not necessarily the most sophisticated in terms of its writing. The art style is very good, but it's just one of those things where if you're not necessarily into Venom, various versions of Venom, alternate universe versions of Venom, and the idea that the symbiotes are being hunted across dimensions and universes, it might not be for you. It's something that I've been really enjoying, and this is the end of this arc, this end of this series. So I'm going to pick it up because I really like it, but it's not necessarily for everybody. So your mileage may vary on that one. Another story arc that's going to be concluding is in Superman number 32, and this is where Lois Lane interviews Deathstroke and gets herself embroiled in some sort of assassination plot. So the big blue Boy Scout, he has to go and kind of, I'd say, confront Deathstroke, but also kind of find out who's behind this small plot in order, who's trying to kill Lois Lane as portion of these things, or who hired Deathstroke to kill Lois Lane. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. It's a story that seems to be kind of a placeholder as they're kind of moving towards something else. So I'm really up on where this one's going to be going, but it's not a necessary part of this book. It's not written by Peter J. Tomasi, so it's not part of the main storyline for Superman. So I'm It could go either way. I'm always going to pick up Superman because I think that it's one of the best books coming out of DC Rebirth, but this is probably a two-parter that you could skip. Then we get to one of the surprise books of the week, and that is Black Bolt number 6. So I've always loved the art of Christian Ward, so this is a no-brainer as far as the art's concerned, but I was concerned about the storyline and what it was really telling. And Black Bolt 1 through 5 has been one of the biggest surprises that I've read, period, coming out of Marvel, with their new titles and new initiatives. So regardless of the fact that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of love for the Inhumans as characters, this story about Black Bolt making uneasy alliances with prisoners inside a prison that he was supposed to send his brother Maximus the Mad to has been really interesting. It's really well told. It creates compelling relationships, and it's, like I said, it's been one of the big surprises for me as far as the writing of this particular book is concerned. I wasn't expecting really much of anything out of Black Bolt, and I got a really entertaining story, and it's reaching the final conclusion of the first arc. So if you have even an inkling of interest in this book, go grab it. It's going to be a lot of fun for you. And even if you don't necessarily have a lot of interest, flip through the first pages of issue number 1 to see if it's something that might be interesting. I was pleasantly surprised. After that, we're going to have to talk about Jessica Jones number 13, which is a book that I'm not necessarily picking up right now, but this does show that as part of the Marvel Legacy Initiative, we get the return of the Purple Man. So there's that. It hasn't been a bad book. To be perfectly honest with you, it hasn't been a bad book, and it's not something that I would, steer somebody away from purchasing. It's just that Jessica Jones hasn't really been doing it for me. The whole introduction as a tie-in to Civil War II was a little bit on the frustrating side, kind of getting to know Maria Hill and all that kind of stuff throughout the series. It's just that if I was going to put a book on my pull list, it wouldn't necessarily be Jessica Jones unless I was looking for that particular style of story, and I was ready to deal with a lot of things that Brian Michael Bendis does on the regular as a writer. So, Jessica Jones hasn't really been a bad book, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, take it or leave it. Then we're going to have to talk about All-Star Batman number 14, which is the finale of the First Allies story arc. So this is Scott Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque telling the story of who the First Ally is. Not only the First Ally of Batman in the reference of Alfred Pennyworth, but the First Ally of Alfred when he was back in his Special Forces kind of days. So this has been a really fantastically illustrated arc. I really like the storytelling style of Scott Snyder, so All-Star Batman has been a book that I have to recommend. It has been on a bit of a delay simply because he's working on DC's Dark Knight's Metal, the main series, and providing input on the other one-shots. So it's just one of those things where give the man a little bit of space to breathe so that way he can continue the story. I believe that All-Star Batman is actually finishing after this, so this might be the end of the actual book line until we get some sort of future iterations in different formats. So All-Star Batman number 14, definitely a way to complete the set, and the end of a pretty solid arc so far. Another end of a Batman arc is going to be Batman 32, which sees the finale of the War of Jokes and Riddles. So finally, Batman versus the Joker versus the Riddler all at once, and we get to see exactly what goes on and what Batman has been so concerned about. And we also get the decision of Selina Kyle regarding the proposal that happened like 7 issues ago. So this is going to be particularly interesting simply because it ties up so many loose ends and puts us in a really good perspective for where Batman is going to be going forward. So I'm really excited to see where WOJAR ends, see what happens in Batman 32, and how it ties into future storylines that Tom King is writing. I see some really interesting stuff on the horizon, so I wonder what kind of pitch this one's going to be putting on there. Really excited about Batman 32. Definitely a must-buy for most, if not every person that reads comic books. Then let's dive into new number 1s, and we have Spirit of Vengeance number 1. So this is a Marvel Legacy title. It is the start of a 5-issue miniseries, which is going to be dealing with a lot of the magical, mystical, hellfire notions. So you've got Satana, you've got Hellstrom, you've got Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider, you've got Blade, you've got, so you've got these people that are really tied to the iconography of, hell and demons and that kind of stuff inside the Marvel Universe. So it should be a pretty interesting book for those that want to kind of focus on the Midnight Suns aspect of Marvel. It's not something that I'm necessarily going to be picking up, but it definitely looks like something that's interesting for people that like that part of the Marvel Universe. Another number 1 is going to be Punisher the Platoon by Garth Ennis, and this is it is the rejoining of two star creators that worked so well on The Punisher before for a short miniseries that's really going to delve into the past of Frank Castle before he became the Punisher. So I really appreciate the way that, Garth tells a story when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's definitely something that I'm going to be checking out, at least for the first issue. So I'm excited for where Punisher the Platoon is going to go, or at least the idea behind it. So I can't wait to read number 1 to get a little bit more understanding as to what he's going to be presenting as far as a story. Definitely something worth checking out, at least. Then to finish things up, we're going to be talking about 2 number 1s from Batman books, and this is Batman the White Knight number 1. So this is written by Sean Gordon Murphy, and this is a story about the Joker, or Batman and the Joker, or Batman on the Joker, or the Joker on Batman. So the Joker is essentially cured of insanity after the Batman beats him to a pulp, studies up on law and various research aspects, and goes and takes the task to Batman and tries to save Gotham from its worst villain, the Batman himself. So it's a very interesting take, and I'm really excited to see where this goes as far as a storyline's concerned. It seems rather fresh and original, and Sean Gordon Murphy did a fantastic job illustrating on Tokyo Ghost with Rick Remender, so I can't wait to see what he does in his own dedicated book where he's writing and drawing. So it seems like a really cool concept, and definitely something I'm really interested in checking out. And to finish things off, obviously we have Batman The Dawnbreaker number 1, another DC Dark Knight's Metal tie-in, which is going to show Batman taking over the power of the Green Lanterns, corrupting it for evil purposes, and using it to, well, do some pretty crazy and nasty stuff. If the indications of the previous 2 books, the Red Death and the Murder Machine, are any kind of symbol for where we're going to be going with the Dawnbreaker, you can pretty much count on corruption, villainy, really kind of interesting perspectives as to why those things happen, and they all come down to one particular character flaw. Either Bruce is afraid of being alone, Bruce is afraid of not being able to save everybody and protect everybody, and what it does when that fear is pushed to its limit, the lengths that he will go to succeed and create a situation where not only can he achieve his goal, but he gets twisted in the process. So it's all really cool. I'm really appreciating these Dark Knight's Metal tie-ins where we're seeing the origin of these individual characters. It gives a lot of ideas as to where we can go with the Dark Universe, and definitely something that's interesting. So definitely pick that one up. And those are the books that I'm picking up this Wednesday, so I want to know what you guys are picking up too. Don't forget to hit the poll card up here to see which ones that you want me to do a review on, because I've already picked out 2. I'm going to be doing Batman White Knight, and I'm going to be doing Batman the Dawnbreaker. So, pick one out on the poll so that way I can do a third review for you guys, and we'll see what we get for results this time. But those are my ideas for what I'm going to be picking up on Wednesday, but I want to know what you guys are grabbing as well. So hit me up in the comments down below so we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows, and games, and anything and everything having to do with the world of comics.